animals. I like animals. Sometimes when I'm drawing them, I almost feel like they're my special pets. And the very first art book I had as a child was How to Draw Horses. And I'll never forget that it showed that the head of animals that are horse-like, mules, donkeys, burros, the head is like one big circle and another smaller circle. So as I started my drawing, that was the first thing that I thought about. I have a light drawing. First I made the eye too big, but then I made it smaller, and I realized that's characteristic of this type of animal. The nostril, also I would keep it small to start with, and there's quite a few curves here. When I teach, I often tell people, exaggerate what is characteristic of your subject. So in animals like this, long ears are characteristic, so I might make the ears even longer than I had in my original drawing. This time I'm going to work with watercolor, but I'm not going to wet the entire thing. I'm just going to do more of a direct painting. So I'm going to go for a warm gray, meaning with the gray I make, I'll use mostly red and yellow, a little bit of blue, and there are always some puddles on my palette. The colors are the transparent triad, yellow ochre, rose madder genuine, and cobalt blue. Need a little bit more orange than that. I use the Kleenex to control the amount of paint, and I'll just soften that area. I could use a thinner brush, but I always tell people to use as big a brush as you're comfortable with. So I'm using the 1-inch brush. I'm mostly working with this face. Actually, this animal is looking over the back of this animal. So, but when you have two things, you have to choose that one is more important than the other. So I want this face to be the most important. I'll use a light warm gray on the face, and it's short hair, so I'll keep my marks a little bit shorter. There's light around the eye. I'm going to change color, go to a little bit more neutral gray. Now it's darker in here, but right now I'll still keep it light. And save some white in the area. I never lived on a farm, but when I was growing up in the Chicago suburbs, my father and his family was in the dairy, they were in the dairy business. And so I've always liked farm animals. I think I'll let it dry. I dried this a little bit. It wasn't very wet because I was sort of doing a direct painting, which means working on the arches, 140-pound paper, with watercolor without wetting the area first. I want to mostly work with this animal, and I'm going to come into some details right now involving the ears. It's almost like a question mark shape right there. And at this ear, it would be almost like a U shape. I'll soften it. Now watercolor dries lighter, so I probably should have made that a little bit darker. When it's dried just slightly, I'll come back and do that. I talk softly, and I tend to work a lot with the light values. Of course, if I go over them several times, then it shows up more. Many paintings I work on for several hours, but I like to work quickly too. It's like having a sandwich or having a big meal. Both are nice, and purposely the second animal, I'm making the ears a different color than my main actor, this animal. I see hair that's coming up, so I make brush marks that go up. I can't see all of this ear in the reference material, so I just do some of it sort of from memory. I'm glad I have some pencil marks, because that helps me allocate space. And the eyes, of course, are important, so I'll work the eyes on both of them. Many people make eyes too big, so I start with them small, and then I can make them bigger later if I want to. Soften it. I'll come back to this eye. Now, these I've made red, so that one I'm going to go neutral and toward cool, meaning slightly blue. The nostril on this one, I think I'll go toward neutral with that. And if we're working from photographs as a reference, we must remember that photographs exaggerate darks. So we want to keep that in mind. Sometimes with my brush, I like to suggest the angle where I'm going to paint, sort of like a baseball player when they warm up, or an athlete before they would like kick a football. They sort of practice in the air. So I'm practicing with that curve, and I'll go out just a little bit of an outline up here, but I think about how it would feel if I would pet this animal. It would have short hair and a little curve. My training is to make drawings angular. So even though I might think this was quite a curve, I'll make it slightly at an angle. Then a little more, go back to the 1-inch brush for some darker gray in this area toward neutral. Toward neutral, but slightly warm. And we're not painting a wall, we're painting an animal. We want it to have character. So I remembered to make my brush marks go the way the hair goes. Fur, I should say, not hair. Fur. That's better. Narrow that just a little bit. And I think I'll let that dry. My paper is dry, and I'll do a few more color accents. That's a little bit toward red, but it's more brown than this one, and that's good. I wouldn't want them the same. I'm going to go a little bit more toward orange on this one. Brown, but toward orange. Then there's more orange in this area. I need something in contrast, so I'm going to use just a little green. Because these animals have long ears, I'm going to make it even longer. And warm inside, a little more red. You don't have to do much to indicate a mouth. Purple is toward neutral. I like the idea of having more than one animal, but one has to be more important. So it is this one that's the featured animal. With the thin brush, I'm going to just do a little feeling of the way the fur grows. Fur, hair. horsehair would be, not fur. This is like drawing with a brush. I'll indicate the side of the head and give a suggestion of nostrils. I mentioned the angularity, so here I really make that seem angular. And maybe with my 1-inch brush and a little bit more neutral color, I feel like I'm dancing with my brush. I always say use as few strokes as possible. So that means I could work on this for a long time, but I think maybe I will call this studying how one can work with animals and not do a lot of detail, just a suggestion of them. And so I think I will stop with this one. I might do just a little bit more, but I really think I don't need to. So this will be all I'll do to this one.